Hey, shalom, shalom. Kalalal Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. All praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakah Kwadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of great millstone of GMS that do rule well and that do teach well and that have taught me this truth. To you I say shalom. This is Brother Gabar Allah. Lord willing, this will be edifying. I'm a Hebrew Israelite. And let's get it. And I was just looking at the response that was made by Elder Karataza from Vegas. You know, his channel's name is GMSVegasSitdowns 144K. The link will be in the description, of course. So the Zaquan titled the video as Judge Joe Brown speaks against the Hebrew Israelites' response. So pretty much Judge Joe Brown doesn't take the Hebrew Israelites seriously. What else is new? A lot of people don't. And really, you know, this is baby stuff. What he's saying, I'm talking about Judge Joe Brown, by the way. What he's saying, this is something that we as Israelites have encountered many times before. And what he's saying is really baby stuff, man. And the way I view Judge Joe Brown concerning the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that comes out of the scriptures, which is from Yahweh Shem Shai, I see him more as like a baby, you know. He's more in a, I would say he's like in an infant type of state. Well, really, he's lower than an infant. He's a fetus. He's not on any level, because if you're an infant, you're really a babe in this truth, right? And babes cling on to the milk. He can't even handle the milk. So this man's a fetus, right? So he's in an infant-like state, or a fetus-like state, Salakia. So he's worse than a baby. And you know, the Zaquan is right, man. He was quoting pretty much Matthew the 9th chapter, and I believe the 17th verse on down, or the 18th verse on down. And he mentioned that you can't put new wine into old bottles. And Judge Joe Brown is an old bottle. And you know what that's synonymous of? A broken cistern. You know, he's a cistern that cannot retain water, which is the living water, which is the knowledge. And that encompasses the name and the names of Yahweh Shem Yoshai, the laws, statutes, and commandments, and the testimony. He can't handle that because he's making a lot of inartful statements. And I'm not surprised, you know, even though he's educated. He was brought up by the rudiments of this world, pursuant to Colossians, the 2nd chapter. You know, he understands school, he understands mathematics, he understands art, he understands science, but he just can't understand the scriptures. He just can't understand it because he's a broken cistern. He's an old bottle. And you know, an old bottle is like an old dog that cannot learn new tricks. You know, there's a saying in the world, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's Judge Joe Brown. He's been spoiled by the rudiments of this world, going into the accolades, the schooling, his position in life, that he cannot see the truth, right? And that's how I view Judge Joe Brown, man. He's a fetus, and he's just spoiled by the rudiments of this world. That's basically it, right? Now, let me just get some precepts. This is Matthew chapter 9, verse 17. Neither do men put new wine into old bottles, else the bottles break, and the wine runneth out, and the bottles perish. That's right. You put new wine into old bottles, it'll just leak out, and it's just a waste of wine. You know, and that's Judge Joe Brown. You know, and pretty much it's just a waste of time talking to Judge Joe Brown. It is. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of wine, pretty much. He ain't gonna get it. He ain't gonna get it. And it says, but they put new wine into new bottles, and both are preserved. That's true. And you know, that new wine obviously is the truth, and the new bottle is you putting off the old man. Okay? And you mortifying your members. That's the new bottle. Because when you come into this truth, you have to mortify your members, and you have to change how you think and how you see things spiritually. Okay? And you know, the only person that could make you a new bottle is Yahweh Shem El Shai, man. Alright? And both are preserved. That's right. So new wine in new bottles. That new bottle is going to keep and hold and retain the truth. Anyways, man, let me get this. This is Jeremiah chapter 2, verse, I'm going to start at 13. For my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewed them out cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water. And that's what you are, a broken cistern, man. Okay? That's what you are, a broken cistern. Let's check that out. Look at the word cistern. Alright, cistern, a pit, a well. Okay, let's see, ancient cistern. Okay, let's look at an ancient cistern. See? Yeah, it's like a well. It's like a pit that is used to keep water, and it's breaking. So just imagine this all cracked up and leaking water, man. You can't retain the water, right? Which is the knowledge, the majority of our people. Okay, that's you, and that's Judge Joe Brown. So they have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters. And yes, the Lord is the fountain of living waters. And yes, that represents the truth, but that encompasses the name of Yahweh Bashem El Shai, the law, statutes, commandments, and the testimony that comes out of the scriptures. So Judge Joe Brown, he can't retain this, man. It's too much for him. And in order for you to retain the water, man, you got to be spiritual. And the Lord's got to be dealing with you. So the Lord ain't dealing with Judge Joe Brown. Okay? And they can't hold no water. Hey, a lot of our people are like this, man. They're broken cisterns. They can't hold no water, man. You come to them, you talk about spiritual things. Man, they'll flip the bird at you or make stupid and artful comments like Judge Joe Brown. Now, verse 14, is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled? And that's true. And the Zaquan, he brought up a good point. He's like, Judge Joe Brown, your last name is Brown. That's the name of your slave masters, man, that own you, right? And you made a weird statement saying, you black people, it doesn't make sense for you to pursue the Jewish religion. I'm just saying it differently the way he said it, right? But he's like, it doesn't make sense for you to pursue the Jewish religion because it's mythical and black people are just trying to identify with something. Well, first of all, the Zaquan pointed out your last name is Brown, so you're identifying with your slave master. So what did we have to identify with before going into the whole Hebrew Israelite thing? What did we have before that? We had fucking nothing. Alright, so what could we identify with? So his statement didn't really make any sense, when he said that. Because here it is, in this day and age, the year 2025, you have the name of your slave master. So who do you identify with? Right? So, it didn't really make sense. But yes, man, is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled? And that's us right now. I'm talking about the collective whole of Israel, the nation. Right now, we're spoiled. We're carrying the names of our slave master. We're destroyed for a lack of knowledge. We're last fired. We're last hired, first fired, right? That's who we are. And for the most part, Israel is acting like a slave. But he isn't supposed to be a slave. We're a royal people, and that's what the Zaquan talked about too. He went into that. We go back to kings, we go back to priests. Man, we're the sons of God. And the Bible holds all that information. So we can identify with the Bible because all the curses that are written in the Bible are on us. Right? So we got to be the real Jews or the real Israelites, the sons of God that go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, man. And if you want to get deeper, going all the way back to Adam. But he can't retain that information. It's too much. It's too much. So this is Colossians chapter 2, verse 6. It says, "As ye have therefore received Hamashiach Yahushai, your Lord, so walk ye in him, rooted and built up in him, established in the faith, as ye have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Yahushai." And that's Judge Joe Brown. He's spoiled through the philosophies and vain deceits and the traditions of men. And that also goes into the rudiments of this world. The rudiments of this world is really talking about the philosophies, mathematics, sciences, arts, the things that you learn in school, especially post-secondary, going into college and university. Because he has all these accolades, man, and that has actually spoiled him. And I'm sure he's a part of the club, this man, because for him to have such a big platform and for him to be so successful as he is right now, he has to be rubbing shoulders with certain powerful people, Freemasons, of course, and they're into different philosophies. Those people, really, they're Luciferians, right? So that's why he can come on here and say things like that, but the only thing I don't agree with, I don't agree with what Zaquan said, is that he doesn't know anything. I think this is all by design for him to come out and say things like that, because if he's rubbing shoulders with those fraternal buddies of his, he's had to come across some type of knowledge about the scriptures, knowing who he is. A lot of these Freemasons know what's going on. Okay, they're just on the left-hand side. So I think this is by design, this guy right here. But then again, I could be wrong, right? Maybe he is just ignorant. Okay, but either way, man, he's an old bottle and he's a broken cistern. And he definitely doesn't have the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that comes out of the scriptures through the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem Yoshai. It shows. So anyways, man, it says, actually, no, did I get the word? Let's get the word rudiments, just for edification. Rudiments, stoichion. It says, the letters of the alphabet as the elements of speech, not however the written characters, but the spoken sounds, the elements from which all things have come, the material causes of the universe, the heavenly bodies either as parts of the heavens or as others think, because in them the elements of man, life, and destiny were supposed to reside. The elements, rudiments, primary, and fundamental principles of any art, science, or discipline, examples of mathematics, Euclid's geometry, and that's what you learn in school, right? Going into the traditions of man and these different arts and philosophies, that's what you learn in school, right? You go to first you go to when you start out going to school, you start learning these things in kindergarten, usually, or sometimes earlier, junior kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, and then you go to college, post-secondary education. You learn all these things. But you know what you're not learning? You're not learning what comes out of the Bible. You're not learning spiritual things. And the things of this world can't teach you anything, man. When you graduate school, you're still stupid. You don't have a relationship with the Lord when you come out of school, because the Lord ain't dealing with school. And that's what's catching this guy off guard. He just views the Israelites as ignorant, most likely. Ignorant, stupid, homeless. That's another thing that the Zaquan pointed out. And, the Zaquan also pointed out that the individuals and the men and individuals that are called in this truth, they're not going to be of high status. They're really going to be low. They're not going to be noble. They're not going to be of this world. They're not going to have all these type of accolades, and that's how it is. The men of the Lord, most of them were like that. Let me get a scripture or precept. Salak. This is Acts chapter 4, verse 13. Now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, they marveled. And they took knowledge of them that they had been with Yahushua. And beholding the man which was healed standing with them, they could say nothing against it. Yeah, they were, unlearned. They didn't have degrees. They were rude in speech, but they didn't lack in knowledge. They were rough around the edges. They were most likely blue-collar type of men. Like in this day and age, you have blue-collar workers and you have white-collar workers. The white-collar workers, they sit in the office and they went to school and they do things on the computer. Whereas the blue-collar workers, they didn't go to school. They're more hands-on. I'm just using that as an analogy, right? But yeah, man, that's how we're perceived. Unlearned and ignorant because we're rough around the edges. Let me get a precept. This is Salakia. Hold on. Yeah, here we go. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 6. But though I be rude in speech, yet not in knowledge, but we have been thoroughly made manifest among you in all things. That's right. Rude in speech. That can mean you're unlearned, a little bit ignorant. You're not an eloquent speaker. Sometimes you swear a lot, or you repeat yourself. You stutter maybe. You say the same words all over again because your vocabulary isn't too good. That's the men of the Lord. That's how we sound. And yes, we can be rude too. The way we say things. We're rough. Yet not in knowledge, but not in knowledge when it comes to the scriptures. We know the scriptures. Right? We know the scriptures and the Lord's dealing with us. But we have been thoroughly made manifest among you in all things. Okay? And we're out there in the open, man. We're out there for you to see us. We're out there on the highways and byways, instant, in season, out of season, week in and week out, prophesying the downfall of this wicked kingdom, man. Right? But hey, that's going to catch a lot of people off guard, man. People like Judge Joe Brown, let me get this. This is Colossians chapter 2, verse 20. Wherefore, if ye be dead with Yahushua from the rudiments of the world, why as though living in the world are ye subject to ordinances? Touch not, taste not, handle not, which all are to perish with the using after the commandments and doctrines of men, which things have indeed a show of wisdom in will worship and humility and neglecting of the body, not in any honor to the satisfying of the flesh. Let's see what that says in NLT. Real quick here, man. Okay. I'm going to read it again. You have died with Yahushua, and he has set you free from the spiritual powers of this world. So why do you keep on following the rules of the world, such as don't handle, don't taste, don't touch? Such rules are mere human teachings about things that deteriorate as we use them. And that's what you're going to learn in school. And that's what this guy is doing, man. He's a judge, and he's upholding all the things of this world. Really, it's Esau's world. He's upholding Esau's law. He's not upholding the laws of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai. And that's another thing that the Zaquan mentioned. And sadly, this man doesn't realize that he's really set up. Well, really, the Lord has called him to do better things than what he's doing now. He's of a higher calling. Being a judge in Babylon isn't the pinnacle of success. When we get the kingdom, you're going to be a judge, you're going to be a ruler, you're going to be a king, you're going to be a priest, and you're going to be royal, and you're going to be upholding the laws of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai. And in fact, it's going to be written in your inward parts. Right? But he's upholding the things of this world, this man. He's spoiled by the rudiments of this world. And that's why he's making inartful statements like that. But that's okay. That's just how he's set up. I'm not mad at him. And in fact, I like this show. I used to watch it. I like Judge Joe Brown, man. I'll be honest. I like watching him, Right? I do. I'm not disrespecting him. I like watching him. But what he's saying, just shows that he's an old bottle. And, you can't retain wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Broken cistern. And that's how it is for some of our people. Okay? So yeah, man. What else I got here? Okay, here we go. This is another one. 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 8. Now ye are full, now ye are rich, ye have reigned as kings without us, and I would to God, or would to the Most High, ye did reign, that we also might reign with you. For I think that the Most High has set forth us the apostles last, as it were appointed to death, for we are made a spectacle unto the world, and to angels, and to men. We are fools for Yahushai's sake, but ye are wise in Yahushai. We are weak, but ye are strong. Ye are honorable, but we are despised. And yes, we are a spectacle unto the world, even to angels, and also demons too. Because a demon is an angel. Let's be real. It's an angel on the left-hand side, and they're in their order. But yeah, they're watching us too, and also men, people in the flesh. They're watching us, and they look at us as like we're fools, we're stupid, we're foolish, we're ignorant, we're dumb, uneducated, which not all men in the truth are uneducated, by the way. Some men in the truth were in post-secondary. They went to college and university. You have some men in this truth that have PhDs, some have doctorates, some are dentists. Right, so you're just getting caught up. You're just getting caught up on the appearance of how we look when we stand out there on the highways and byways and what we're saying. But we're not stupid. Not all of us are stupid. You know what I'm saying? I'm just, for lack of better words, I'm just saying it that way. Right? But which brothers in the truth, you're not stupid. Right? But, I'm just comparing it to how this guy is thinking. In the first person. So don't get caught up on how I say things, man. It's not what I'm trying to say. Just got to make that clear. So this is Luke chapter 2, verse 45. And when they found him not, they turned back again to Jerusalem, seeking him. And it came to pass that after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking them questions. And all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers. So you see, they were astonished. And these were doctors. These were people in high positions, especially doctors, man. These were physicians. Okay, so a doctor today is held in high regard. They have PhD. And, that's Judge Joe Brown. He's a judge. A high-ranking officer of the court. He's on a high level in this society. And really, I'll just say what he's really saying, I think it's really irreverent respect too. Because you have a lot of people of this world, intellectuals, smart individuals, smart people, when they hear the men of the Lord come out and speak, they're astonished. They're like, wow, I can't believe he has this much understanding. Wow, he's really intelligent. Hey, did you go to university? They ask us questions like that. Man, how did you know that? Wow, that's a lot of stuff you know. Even they come up and take notes. Maybe he's just too proud, man. Maybe he's just too proud to admit that he's actually learning. I don't know. Whatever. So, it says here, verse 48, and when they saw him, they were amazed, and his mother said unto him, Son, why hast thou thus dealt with us? Behold, thy father and I have sought thee soaring. And that's all that I want. That's all that I want. Now, let me see here. Actually, that's all that I want. Yeah. So, I hope this was edifying. Till next time, just want to give all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone of GMS. To you I say Shalom, and Shalom unto the hopeful elect. Kwam Yashala and Abba Ball. Shalom.